So I was on a Zoom call recently with one of my mentors. The guy's name is RJon Robins. He owns a company that serves as fractional CEO, fractional COO, fractional CFO to law firms. So it's sort of a coaching and consulting business. And I wanted to schedule a call with him. We've been in his program for a little over a year, attend a lot of workshops, a lot of seminars that they put on. But I really needed to talk to RJon one-on-one about some of the struggles that our firm is facing right now, particularly because our clients are struggling right now. And there are certain things that it's very difficult for me to try to help them with. So I scheduled this call with RJon. We started talking. And as we got into it, we realized, wow, there's a lot of really good information coming out of this thing. So we hit the record button, and now we're going to share that information with you. So I hope you enjoy this. Tell me what business owners need to be thinking about right now.
The A+ number one thing that business owners need to be thinking about today, and you want to date stamp this?
April 28th.
April 28th.
And it's 12:30 in the afternoon because it might change.
Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. All right. In all seriousness, the A+ number one thing that business owners need to be thinking about today, April 28th, 2020, is where their business is going to be on April 28th, 2021. And then start working your way back from there to today. Because the problem that I'm seeing so many business owners floundering and just making doing a lot of things that I believe they're going to regret later is because they're not thinking a big enough scale, right? If you're thinking in terms of 2 years, and I mean, you could take it to an extreme and say, well, why not think 20 years? Look, if you're thinking in terms of 2 years, you're going to make better decisions about what you're doing today and what you're doing tomorrow, right? So, for example, we saw as soon as the pandemic hit and as soon as business got interrupted, I mean, we saw people just panic firing people left and right. Yeah?
Right.
Well, I mean, if you know you're going to be in business 2 years from now, and you know you're going to need to have an amazing team, and if you know from experience of building a business that one of the biggest challenges is building the team, why would you jettison people at the first sign of trouble?
That's literally the first thing that they did. They gave up on the people that are so important to their business. That was their first. It wasn't calling the landlord. It wasn't calling the bank. It was, bye guys, good luck.
It was the first thing they did.
Yeah.
It demonstrated, in my opinion, from my perspective, a profound lack of scale of thinking, lack of vision, lack of anything. I mean, even if you're in a business or in an industry where because of public health reasons, you have to close your doors, a restaurant, a bar, a movie theater, a place that puts on live performances, right? You know, we all as business owners, one of the big frustrations we all have as business owners is that we all have a long list of things that we haven't gotten around to doing, right? We all have deferred maintenance items. We all have stuff, man, when things are, when the timing is right, I'll finally get around to organizing that big pile of stuff. I'll finally get everyone to implement the new naming conventions. I'll finally get everyone to organize the new whatever, right? Well, if you take your business seriously, which I think we're seeing a lot of people who ostensibly are business owners who don't really take their business seriously and never did, which is good news for those of us who do. But, those things that they claim that they were going to get around to doing, obviously, they never really planned to get around to doing those things. Because when the opportunity presented itself to finally have a staff of people who weren't distracted by 100 other things going on every day, first thing they did was fired everyone. Let's talk about the restaurant, right? The restaurant that's required to close its doors. And I get it. They're doing a little curbside service. They're doing a little delivery, but I mean, they're basically required to close the doors, right? Um, what? There isn't a storeroom that needed to be organized. There wasn't a million names and email addresses of customers who needed to be organized and build some sort of follow-up campaign to bring them back into the restaurant.
Or even if they don't have those names and email addresses, they can start getting them when the doors are opened again, right?
There wasn't like, okay, you know what? Before we fire everyone, maybe we could keep everyone in the restaurant, and like this will be the time where we take the entire restaurant apart, tear the kitchen apart, tear the dining room apart, and do that deep cleaning we've been meaning to do,
Yeah.
right? Or was there really no intention to ever do that deep cleaning? And that's what you're starting to see is a profound lack of any real planning, any real commitment, any real vision, any real long-term thinking. When they fire their staff right away.
So I mean, restaurants are a really good example because they're getting particularly hard hit right now, right? But and when the doors are open and the floodgates open again, there's going to be a surge of people going to restaurants because we need to get the heck out of our houses. So they're sure as heck not going to be able to do that deep cleaning then, because they're going to be busier than ever for a short period of time, assuming they don't lose that business. So I think a lot of businesses, not just restaurants, are completely unprepared for whether it's a deferred demand or it's just that people need to get out and spend some money on some things to when they get out of their homes. But I think a lot of people are not prepared for that. But that's still pretty short term, right? That's more in terms of weeks and months and not in terms of years.
Well, that's the point I'm making is like, let's say the restaurant owner, or, you know, there's this place that I bring my son, he's 4 years old. You got a little kid too, you know, those little jungle gym places where it's like an indoor, disgusting germ fest place. You know, the places I'm talking about, right?
I'm familiar.
Kids love to go there. They got the ball pits that have been like slobbered on and drooled on by like a million different kids. Mm-hmm. The point I'm making is the owner of that place either has plans to do a deep cleaning periodically, or they don't, right? And when the business is shut down for health concerns, the first thing that the owners of these businesses, in my opinion, should be doing is they should be saying to their staff, listen, we have to shut down because of public health concerns, but good news, we have at least 2 weeks worth of work to do. Just tear the place apart, put masks on, put gloves on, which they're going to put masks and gloves on anyway to do the deep cleaning, right? Put the masks on, put the gloves on, get out the Clorox, and let's scrub this place clean so that when we reopen, we're crystal clear. I mean, we're crystal clean, right? Everything's perfectly clean. Now, maybe it takes them a week or 2 weeks to do that. And then when, you know, and for all they knew, they would have reopened. Well, okay, now we've got through all of those chores and now we don't have anything else for them to do. Well, now get creative and think about all the outreach things and all the organization. The point that I'm trying to make here, Adam, is that either the business is perfectly organized, perfectly maintained, and everything has been done to perfection, in which case the business is located in fantasy land.
Yeah, we can't help those people.
Can't help those people because those people live up in fantasy land and they can look down on us and judge us, right? But the rest of us, we all have businesses that have deferred maintenance items, things we're needing to get around to. And if you're really serious about these things, like I've got my team, I've got certain members of my team who there's just nothing for them to do. We run 40 events per year. A team that runs 40 events per year, you know, all year long, we're always playing catch up with back work and backlogged on things to get around to. Well, now we're not. Good news, right?
Well, if you view it as good news, right, which is the whole point. This is an opportunity that a lot of people are saying. They see the opportunity as I can wave the white flag now. I can give up and nobody's going to judge me because I've got the perfect excuse. But the the entrepreneurially mature business owners are saying, this is an opportunity to do the things that we need to do that we've always wanted to do. And I think there's a big difference there. What about the businesses that, I've been using the word pivot a lot. It feels like it's becoming a cliche in my own vocabulary, but I get a lot of businesses telling me that they can't pivot, or they don't want to pivot, or things are going to go back to the way they were. What do you say to somebody like that says, I'm not going to do it, or I can't, my business isn't capable of changing or pivot?
All right. Well, you asked me 3 different questions.
Pick your favorite one.
One question is, what do I say to the people who say they can't pivot? And I say that's a lack of imagination. What do you say to the people who say I won't pivot? That's a lack of commitment and determination. And what do you say to the people who are counting on things to go back to the way they were? That's a lack of worldly realism. It's like forgetting their history. I was trying to think of a word that ends with "un," so I could do those 3 in a row, but I couldn't.
Maybe we'll go back and edit it and put a word in there. That sounds good. We'll look one up.
Yeah, first we have to think of the word. Anyway, so let me talk about those in order, okay?
Okay.
I can't pivot. That's a lack of imagination. I've been guiding and advising and helping people build million and multi-million dollar businesses for 20 years. And I can't think of a business, I can't think of an industry where there isn't an opportunity to pivot, to set themselves up for success in the future. Maybe your viewers have some kind of unique, weird, bizarre, unusual industry or business or particular unique circumstances. Maybe someone's business really is that different from anything that I've seen in my 20 plus year career of doing this. But that would be, I would welcome the opportunity to be challenged with something like that. Sincerely, that'd be a fascinating intellectual puzzle for me to try to solve. If someone could please bring me something that I haven't seen 20 times before.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's good news for people who have the right mindset. And to your point earlier about people who are looking at this as a perfect opportunity to raise the white flag, there's a lot of people who really like to be, they get their feeling of being special by some people get their feeling of being special by being the best. Look at me, I'm special, I'm better than everyone else. But just as many people whose emotional need to be special is satisfied by being better than everyone else, there's even more people in my experience whose need to be special is satiated by being the most helpless person around.
Right.
Look at me, I'm special, I've fallen and I can't get up, and I feed off all of the attention and all the energy and all the sympathy of everyone who's now rallying around to help lift me, to help pick me up again. And those people, of course, you get them stood up on their feet going in the right direction, you turn around and 10 minutes later, they found a way to fall on their face again because they really get off on the attention.
Right.
And so, the person who says, I'm not going to pivot, look, maybe a person is at a certain age, maybe they've reached a certain, maybe they started their business with very clear financial goals, personal goals, and professional goals, right? And maybe right before this pandemic hit, they were that far away from achieving their financial goals and their personal goals and their professional goals. And it's I just don't want to start all over again. I'm really close to achieving my goals anyway. Screw it. I'll shut the thing down. I'll just ride off into the sunset. And that's, I think, not the kind of person we're talking about when we're talking about the person who says, I willfully and intentionally am choosing not to pivot and adapt.
Well,
right?
yeah, here's the way that I do business, and I'm not going to change it. Right. I mean, that's basically
And it's not in the context of, I'm not going to change it because I'm so close to the finish line that I'm just not willing to start all over again and reinvent things. That's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
What do I say about the people who willfully will not change? You know what I say? I say, thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that you're handing me this opportunity on a silver platter to take your business. And that's exactly what, we manage almost 400 solo and small businesses all around the country. We function as the outside fractional, like a timeshare CEO, COO, and CFO. I know you know that, but I'm saying that for your benefit of your audience. And our members, I mean, their businesses are turning in, I mean, you're one of them, right? Record weeks and record months in terms of growth, both leading indicators and, trailing indicators are easy, but also leading indicators. And it's precisely because so many small business owners are taking the attitude of, I won't evolve. I won't pivot. I won't challenge myself to venture into what's unknown to me already. And they're just handing us opportunities on a silver platter. So I say thank you to them. I mean, it's sad, but when I was a younger man, I used to say, live and let live. But now I can't remember the lyrics. I say, live and let die. And I'm not saying this to be a jerk, but it's like, geez, if you're going to just quit, I've led too many horses to too much water and watched them not drink.
Yeah.
I only want to work with people. Like, I only want to work with people. And I know you feel the same way because we've had this conversation. Like, life's too short to work with people who don't want to be helped. And if a person doesn't want to be helped, I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy. I promise to take good care of your former customers, clients, patients, passengers, diners, and staff. They will have a good new home with me.
Yeah. That's been an interesting change too, though, because I think a lot of business owners who at the start of this thing said, yeah, we can do it, let's go. And now we're 5 or 6 weeks into a shutdown. We got at least another week and a half left before they start to ease the restrictions. So I think there's a group of people that are losing momentum there. They had the mindset at the beginning and now they're losing it. And then there's a group that have said, man, we don't know when this thing's going to end. Now we really have to make a change. We're forced to do something.
Well, this is what you're describing is very well documented in psychology and psychiatry. There was a wonderful, wonderful book. I've reread this book many, many times, written by an author named Viktor Frankl. The book is Man's Search for Meaning. And you're nodding, you know the book?
I know Viktor Frankl. I've heard of the book. I haven't read it.
Oh, you got to read the book. Very relevant to what's happening today, in the sense that so he was a psychiatrist. He's a Jewish psychiatrist living during the time of World War II in Nazi-controlled territory, and he was put into a concentration camp. Horrible, horrible experience. And but being a psychiatrist, he made a decision to see it as an opportunity, not just a problem. And the opportunity that he began to see it through the lens of an opportunity. And the lens was, where else in the world, when else in my life am I going to have the opportunity to study the psychology of people in such a horrible, horrible, unjust, unfair, dangerous situation? It was like, it was like he chose to see it as the perfect experiment. You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
And what he studied, and there's a U.S. admiral whose name I'm forgetting, who did a similar study. Anyway, here's the point. They studied prisoners who were unjustly imprisoned. And you got to make a distinction between people who are unjustly imprisoned versus people who are imprisoned through some semblance of a justice system.
Right.
Okay. So the prisoners who are unjustly imprisoned,
which is how a lot of people are feeling right now.
Which is exactly how a lot of people are feeling right now, right? Through no fault of my own, I've done nothing wrong, and I'm basically locked up, right? Lockdown. That's what we're calling it, right?
Yep.
The people who set arbitrary expectations as to when it was going to end psychologically broke down and fared the worst. And people who developed the mindset of, what am I going to learn from this? What am I going to learn? How am I going to grow from this? I need to survive this so that I can tell the world what happened here. I need to survive this so that I can share the lessons with the world in the future. Those people psychologically fared better and actually survived in much higher percentages than the people who would happen is they say, oh, well, it's January. For sure we'll be out of here by Easter. Definitely we'll be out of here by Easter. And then what happens is psychologically they're in a higher place than the people who are saying, I have no idea when I'm going to be out of here. Right? Except the problem is Easter comes and they're not out, and then they crash badly.
Yeah.
Right? And then they say, okay, well, we didn't get out by Easter, but for sure we'll be out of here by July 4th. Definitely by July 4th. And then they go up higher. July 4th comes and it doesn't happen, and they crash even worse. Oh, well, I'll definitely be out of here by Thanksgiving. By Thanksgiving, they'll let us free. The Allies will free us or whatever by Thanksgiving. And they're up here, and then Thanksgiving comes, and it doesn't happen, and they crash. You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so what's happening right now, and I think that we're going to see, so to put this in perspective, and we talked about this before you started the recording. My undergraduate, part of my undergraduate is economics with a focus or a concentration on public policy and banking. So I'm basically an economist who studied politics and banking and politics from a public policy standpoint,
right,
in Washington, D.C., and now run a business with 50 full-time employees managing over almost 400 other businesses, right? And my point is, I'm not expecting us to see the full effect of this in our economy until I'm thinking it's going to be probably first quarter of 2021 before we really see the full effects of this in the economy, right? So just think about if you're experiencing this with the expectation of 12 to 18 months in front of you versus if you go through this thinking in 2 weeks they're going to let us out of lockdown and everything's just supposed to magically return to normal, right? Think about how many disappointments those short-term thinkers are going to run into and how much psychological abuse they're going to inflict on themselves by repeatedly setting themselves up for frustration, repeatedly setting themselves up for disappointment, repeatedly setting themselves up for failure versus those of us like you and me who are thinking, okay, this is probably 12 to 18 months, maybe 24 months. And any little thing that happened here and there, it's just a little zigzag on the way to wherever this thing is ultimately going to go, as opposed to the person who every zig, every zag, they just completely lose their mind.
Right. And we're not done zigging and zagging. And you spelled this out in another podcast that I listened to, and I'll share the link to that. But you kind of broke it down in 4 phases of, there's the shutdown, and then there's, another 3 waves that come after that. And that's why this
opportunity, for those of us who are thinking about it clearly, it's like opportunity to the 4th power.
Yeah.
And if you're going to share that link, then I won't repeat the whole thing here, but I'll just encourage anyone who wants to. And you can also share the talk that I gave with my team. I mean, my own team. This is the first week that this happened. I sat my team down and explained to them why I see this and how I see this as an opportunity to the 4th power, why and how their jobs were going to be, why and how I believed their jobs were going to be safe. Which, by the way, I want to mention, Adam, because you and I have seen some people make a humongous blunder. I sat my team down and explained to them why and how I believed their jobs would be safe.
Right.
And I explained to them what I was doing, the plan that I had, why and how I thought the plan made sense, and why I was committed to execute on the plan that would cause their jobs to be safe. Now, a number of people I shared that with, and they took the wrong message from it. And what they did was went out and promised their team that their jobs would be safe. Do you get the distinction there?
Yeah, that's not the right promise, right? There's promises that you can make, but that one's a little risky.
You say risky, I say reckless. Okay. Reckless and irresponsible, right? So the promise that I made to my team was, I have invested a lot of time and energy, and I've got all this education that causes me to reach these conclusions. These are the things that I believe are true that I know. These are the things that I believe to be true that I think that I know. And I promised my team, here's the things that I don't know. Here's what I know that I don't know. Here's my plan, and here's why I think this plan makes sense. And my promise to you is that I've given this a lot of thought. I've given this a lot of energy. I've given this a lot of consideration. I've consulted with these different people whose opinions I value and trust and respect based on experience and education. And I promise you that I'm committed to execute on this plan as long as the things that I believe to be true remain true, and as long as the things that I believe that I don't know about don't somehow show up and change the plan. Right. Which I think a lot of business owners who you see them running their business for the wrong reasons to begin with, which causes all kinds of problems with profitability and management, even in good times.
Right.
They're demonstrating, they're revealing that they run their business for the wrong reason to begin with. And that shows up in making promises to their team or their staff that your job will be safe. And then, of course, if circumstances change, the owner of that business is like just destroyed because, I mean, they made promises that they couldn't possibly expect to be able to keep.
And those of us that made the right promises, we have had to adjust course as we hit those zigs and zags, but we're like I said, 5 or 6 weeks into this, and we've got jobs posted now that we're recruiting for that we didn't have before this crisis started. So,
and the other thing is, think about the kind of person who's going to take you at your word when you say, listen, the world is seeing a pandemic at a scale that we've never seen before. The United States government has, for the first time in any of our lives, ordered the shutdown of huge swaths of the economy. But no matter what, your jobs are safe. You can count on me. I mean, think about the employee who actually believes that, think about where else that employee either has bad judgment, okay, or is willing to allow you to do things that are bad for you and bad for the business because it's convenient for them. I would like to think that had I said such a thing to any of my staff, everyone on my staff would have challenged me on and said, wait a second, RJon, how can you promise us that?
Right.
Are you saying that you're going to max out your line of credit, not pay any of your vendors, go get a bank loan and max that out too, sell your house, liquidate all your things, all so you can keep paying us a salary no matter what? Is that what you're saying? At which point I would have said, no, of course that's not what I'm saying. And they would have said, good, because we wouldn't have believed you anyway.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end. I've actually got to throw on a tie and head over to the courthouse right now for some interesting things, but I really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll get this thing cleaned up a little bit and get it out on the internet and share it with everybody.
Can I just say something that I think that you wouldn't ask me to say this. Adam did not ask me to say this. But I think it's something that you're sharing this with your clients, right?
Yeah, clients, potential clients. I mean, any business owner, I think, needs to hear and be reminded of these messages pretty consistently, because there's so much uncertainty out there.
Okay, well, I just feel like I want to add a plug for you.
I'll accept that.
Okay. All things being equal, and I mean this very seriously, I think a lot of business owners don't necessarily know the right criteria to use when selecting a business attorney. And I think that this pandemic is going to reveal a big difference between most business attorneys who might be technically proficient at writing contracts and interpreting the law and giving technically good legal advice and, filing lawsuits and defending lawsuits and, doing the things that business attorneys do.
Right.
Versus trusted advisors, business attorneys who are themselves business owners, who treat their law firm like a business, who have a written marketing plan, who have a written sales strategy, who have documented processes and systems and procedures, who have job descriptions that they can manage and hold their staff accountable for, who have budgets and cash flow projections, who even know what budgets and cash flow projections and budget variance reports and cost of goods sold and things like that even mean. I don't want, and look, I don't live in Pennsylvania, so you're not my attorney.
Right.
But the general counsel, the outside general counsel that we have for our business, and we last year grossed just under $15 million. And this year we were on track to do about 18 million. But now, because of the pandemic, I actually think that's going to be closer to 20 million in gross revenue. You want a business attorney who understands business, not just a business attorney who understands the law that affects business, because you want a business attorney who's hired people, who's had to fire people, who's had to figure out how to pivot and grow their business, right? Imagine the clients right now, Adam. Have you thought about this? You should do a whole podcast on this. Imagine the clients whose own attorney is so uncreative, uncommitted, unresourceful, unbusinesslike, non-entrepreneurial, so short-term thinking that he or she himself allows the law firm that supports his or her own family to fall apart because of this pandemic. And now this is a person you look to as your trusted advisor to guide and advise and counsel and challenge and inspire and motivate and hold you accountable for doing the things that you need to do to grow your own business. I think that coming out of this pandemic, we're going to see a lot of business owners who are going to get smart about what they're looking for in a trusted advisor, business attorney. And I just want to tell you, because I don't think you're bragging about this. I think you're all joking aside, you're not a humble guy in a lot of ways, but I think you probably don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you brag to your clients? Do your clients know how much you've grown your business in the last few years?
We do talk about the fact that we doubled last year, and
Do your clients know the amazing creative things you're doing to grow your business now, not just despite, but because of the pandemic?
We try and talk about it. Yep.
Oh, maybe you're not as humble as I thought. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, most of that's a small piece of the conversation. Usually we're talking to our clients about their problems, right? And part of our saying, here's how we can help solve your problems, is because we know how to, the criteria you said, we know how to run our own business. We know how to market. We know how to grow. We know how to hire and fire employees, right? So if that's bragging, sure, I brag, but I don't usually lead off with, look how great we are, but it is part of the conversation.
It ain't bragging if it's true, right?
But I think the other piece of it that people need to understand is I'm also not going to act like I know everything. So I have my own trusted advisors that I go to, I don't do a lot of work directly with you, although we do some workshops, but I've got my CEO through your company. I've got my COO through your company. And there's other people that we work with who become trusted advisors to me. So there's some levels to it. But I think anybody that thinks they should try and figure this out all on their own or do it all on their own is terribly misguided. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And listen, when I say thanks for having me, I mean, we were having this conversation and Adam said, could we repeat part of this conversation? Let me record it. I hope it came across as natural and fun and authentic as the real conversation was.
So here's my question. If I was able to do this again, if I was able to get in touch with one of my mentors, one of the experts that I rely on to run my business, are there questions that you would ask that I could take to him, right? This is a guy that runs, I think it's an $18 million business. I think it's an $18 million business. They've got something like 50 employees. They've grown like crazy. They make the Inc. 5000 list almost every year, it seems like. So if I could get access to a guy like that and ask him questions and bring those answers to you, what type of questions would you ask?